Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast. My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. This is our first official episode of the Process. This is something Preston and I have been working on for a few weeks now. Getting the stuff together that we need, thinking about topics to talk about. And we'll jump into all that in this episode in just a second. But Preston, did you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
Yes, I did. I spent some time with family, got a little work done around the house, a lot of work around the house done, and did the Murph yesterday with the guy sitting beside me.
Yeah, we got together as a leadership team here at the company we co-run, Palms Realty. And we did a leadership Murph workout, which is always, I think, just a great test of where you are at physically, and also a great tribute to those who've served.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun yesterday. And then after that, collected myself and didn't throw up. I was proud of myself for not doing that. And then went home and spent some time with the family and had some friends over and cooked out. And normal Memorial Day stuff. So It was a lot of fun.
So let's talk about the process, Preston. Like I said, something we've really been talking about since we've started working together here for kind of a short time. We'll get into our stories a little bit, but why are we here? What is the process? What is it all about? What inspired you specifically to have the idea of putting this podcast together?
Yeah, it's really the idea of, from the idea is from new agent to broker owner. And not only in real estate, though, we'll talk a lot of things about business and things that we've done to help us in business and to grow individually, personally and professionally. So that's the whole idea with it. We'll do obviously talk a lot about real estate and interview different realtors and brokers throughout the country, but also talk about business in general and things that we do in life in general that has helped us grow.
So this episode, we're going to get into a lot of different stuff in the process, but this episode, Preston and I decided to do what we call just an introduction to us, our beliefs, our focuses, our core values. So we're kind of going to interview each other so you can get to know who we are a little bit. So, all right, so Preston, tell us about yourself, your family, all that good stuff, just so we get to know who Preston is.
Yeah, so I have three children, Sophie, Carson, and Noah. Sophie's the oldest. She's 13. Carson's 11. Noah's 9. And then my wife, Kirsty, we met in 2007, got married in 2008. Sophie was born in 2009. So, yeah, that's my family. And then as far as real estate, got into real estate in 2004. How far we want to go back?
I love this. This is a story you once told me about your very first business you ever had as a kid. I want to go that far back. Where did you get your entrepreneurial, I just messed that word up a little bit, entrepreneurial start in life?
So we'll go back. So fifth grade, I remember, it's funny. I remember this in fifth grade. I actually, the little Christmas dishes or the tins that usually have candy in them, they're round. So I remember taking that in fifth grade, and I sold blow pops in fifth grade. My mom actually worked at Walmart, so it was one of her jobs. She always worked at AVX, but she had part-time jobs as I was growing up, around the holidays and things like that. And one she had was Walmart. And so that was fifth grade. And then in sixth grade, I graduated up to bubble gum. So I started selling gum in sixth grade at middle school, and would get half off at Walmart. So I'd go to school with a backpack of books and another one full of bubble gum. And I'd make, like, I don't know, back then as a middle schooler, I was making $10 to $15 a day doing that. And so that's what I did through middle school.
And then, of course, you gradually started getting into other businesses. So talk to us. How did you eventually get into real estate? There's a little bit that led up to that as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So my first job, like actually going to work, was I got a job at Pizza Hut, and when I was 13, and then through my through high school, I always worked in restaurants. I worked at J. Edwards, bussing tables, waiting tables. So I stayed in the restaurant industry while I was going to college. And then when I moved back from Charleston, I went back and helped. That was 2001. I went back and helped open a couple restaurants here locally. and then knew I needed to do something different. So, I was always attracted to real estate and architecture and design and that. So I actually got my real estate license in 2004. So started in sales with Caldwell Banker in Surfside, and then from there I went to Remax by the Sea, and then after that I went to a company Chuck Cox owned, which I actually used to work for Chuck at J. Edwards. He was the manager when I was bussing tables there. So then, I stayed there. I actually got my contractor's license in 2006 and started building spec houses and building houses throughout. You know, unfortunately, probably not the best time in the world to start building houses.
What I think is interesting about you even do it now about your career in real estate, especially, you tend to focus on what other companies aren't, and you had a very early focus in the early 2000s in SEO when a lot of people didn't even know what that was. Talk to us a little bit about that, your first couple websites, and how that's kind of evolved over time.
Yeah, so in 2004, I actually built a Z57 site, which was a kind of a template site that was around. A lot of people had a lot of agents. I always living in Myrtle Beach. A lot of the people that come to this market are not from here, so I was like, okay, how can I get in front of them and stay in front of them? And so that's what I did. I focused on SEO, link building, content building, blogs, and all that in 2004. 2005, I was doing a lot of research online. Found a couple sites who really attracted me, and I was trying to figure out who built them, and actually stumbled across somehow. I can't remember how, but the site was SEOguy.com, which is Morgan Carey. Now he runs Real Estate Webmasters, and so that was when I started the first custom website design, and so that did really well. I was showing up in front of a lot of companies locally, and that was a big focus. Like, let's focus on automation and ways to get in front of people that, with so many people coming to here from other markets, it was a good thing to focus on.
So fast forward a little bit, you got into new home construction, right? Continued focusing on websites, kind of brought all that together. Talk about that portion of your career a little bit.
Yeah, so 2010, I started a company. It's still in business today. CRG Companies, founded that. Brought on. Our focus was construction, real estate, and green technologies, newer technologies. And it was the same thing there. Like, I focused online to generate leads and to generate attention, because there wasn't a whole lot of home builder sites in 2010 where you could find them. You know what I mean? Like, the custom home builders, it was typically you'd go to a realtor, or it was a referral. There was not really a whole lot of them you could find online. So that's what we did in 2010. And so that company, I stayed with CRG until 2020, and sold out to my business partners. But the year I left, we did roughly about 130 million in real estate sales and about over 20 million in custom home construction. So that was something that I wanted to focus. And I enjoyed the that whole custom construction and design part of it as well.
Why that shift? I've heard you talk about it before, but why that shift? And I feel like at some point you kind of took a different direction where you wanted to focus on things you were more passionate about. Is that right?
Yeah. So moving out of CRG, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. It was, I got into construction. It was a whole lot of fun. I did the design. I would hand draw plans. We designed, and from 2010 to 15, we didn't really focus on general brokerage sales, because my concern was, if we're doing general brokerage sales, we wouldn't get the leads from realtors.
Mm-hmm.
So we really didn't do any general brokerage sales from 2010 to 15. And in 15, we actually built an inside sales team. We went to the inside sales conference when I decided to do that. And I always enjoyed that part of it, the real estate side. But for me, the construction, just with code, different codes coming out, and the difficulty of construction with just everything, it just was not enjoyable to me anymore. Construction is, I enjoy it, but just you went from permitting taking a week, and now I don't even know what it is now. I haven't done it in 3 years, 2 years, but I've heard people talk about it. Instead of a 1 to 2 week process. It's a 2-month process.
Mhm.
Uh, that's really, for me, it became to a point where it wasn't enjoyable anymore. And it really doesn't matter about the money. I mean, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, that's it's just no fun.
Right. So fast forward a little more, you're now what we call our chief visionary officer
Mhm.
over a couple key companies here, right? We have Palms Realty and of course Easy Home Search. And we'll talk about my story a little bit in a second, but I work as your integrator
Yep.
or operations manager. And we'll talk about EOS. We'll talk about that in some future episodes. That's the entrepreneurial operating system. That's what we run here. And I feel like you focus pretty heavily on Easy Home Search, and I feel like that's something you're really passionate about. You seem to have a lot of passion with it.
Yeah, so I developed that site actually in 2019-20. I started working on it, and it was more to generate mortgage leads for. We brought Revolution Mortgage to this market. My wife is still there, um, and that was really the idea behind it. And as I dug in more, and it's funny. I'll tell people, growing up, I enjoy sports and everything else, but I also enjoyed like video games and computer things and fixing computers. So to me, SEO and developing sites and it's almost like a video game when I go on every day and check out analytics and what the site's doing as far as traffic and what I can do to make it grow and doing all those things in the structure of the site to where it grows. But so anyway, I started continue to focus on that, and the more and more traffic that was built up, the more and more I started to enjoy it. And yeah, now I think this month we'll have 200,000 visitors, 850,000 page views. So it's evolved, and now Easy Home Search covers all of South and North Carolina. We're about to go into Georgia. We actually just launched an app last week, which is exciting.
Yeah, the Easy Home Search app. It's actually a really great. I'm not saying it because I work here, but I'm telling you, it's actually a really great real estate search app
Yeah,
that's extremely easy to use. That's what I'm a big fan of technology that I don't need a college degree to figure
yeah,
out. And this isn't at all a plug. This wasn't planned, but to me, my first impression of it, I first saw it on Friday when it launched. I downloaded, put it on my phone. I said, "Wow, this is super easy to use."
mhm.
If I was a client or a realtor trying to send this to somebody or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and the LLC, the company Easy Search LLC. So the app is when you go on the app store, it's just Easy Search. The home's not in the middle, and there's a little home icon or home logo as part of the logo. So that's the whole Easy. See the home and the logo, and then the search. So yeah, I'm really enjoying where I'm at, and running Easy Home Search and helping at Palms as well. I mean, it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I think, I view a guy like you, Preston, as somebody, and I think all entrepreneurs should strive for this in one way or another, is you've put people in place like myself, and we could talk about Josh and Nick, who focus on all the aspects of business or businesses that are important. And you're able to work, number one, on the business, not in the business.
Mhm.
And number two, the things you work on, I feel like are the things you're extremely passionate about. And I think that's really, if you look back at EOS, based on a book by Gino Wickman called Traction, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's you know, for me, any business you start that's successful, and what a lot of people struggle with is building a leadership team, trusting the leadership team to do the things that they may think they're better at, or you as a leader might think you're better at. But early on at Palms, we built a strong leadership team, and running based on EOS, where most businesses jump from fire to fire instead of like doing the things that truly matter and are important. A lot of those things get pushed aside because you can still run a business without operations manuals or these little things here and there that always get kind of pushed down the road. And EOS forces you to take care of those things and, like I said, work on the business.
Right. So I guess we kind of flip this to me. This is where you interview me a little bit, Preston.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat.
My story I think a little less complex maybe. So where Preston out of the two of us is definitely the entrepreneur. I can consider myself more of an intrapreneur, and that's a word, if you're not familiar with it, it means I like to focus on the management and operational portions of the business, the tactical stuff that makes a business run. And so essentially, I work for Preston as an operations manager, or in EOS terms, I'm the integrator for the companies. And my story, similar to Preston, I got into honestly a role like that even when I was a kid. My parents were entrepreneurs. They owned restaurants growing up. My very first job was as a teenager, 13, 14, 15 years old. I'd go to work for my father. I was washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever had to be done. But I can remember my dad would always put me in these roles with other young people that worked in the restaurant. At the end of shifts when things had to be cleaned up and prepped for the next day, he'd put me in charge. Right, he made that my responsibility to make sure that all got done. And I can remember at a really young age, I was learning how to manage people, give direction, and follow up. And in the time as a teenager, I probably didn't enjoy it as much. But I think back, I mean, those were lifelong skills I was learning at a very young age.
So you learned how to clean a lot of bathrooms.
I learned how to do a lot of it myself, right, to make sure it was done. My dad's a guy who had a really high standard. But I mean, those were, I think back, it's funny. I mean, it's a whole other conversation, but I feel like a lot of young kids don't have jobs today.
Yeah.
I feel like I was learning skills at a really young age that still help me today.
Yeah.
You know,
Looking back at like bussing tables, I was always the one that had to take the trash out and clean all the bathrooms.
right.
It's like not something that's a whole lot of fun, but hey, need to learn how to clean a bathroom at some point.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that.
Yeah. So that was kind of my start, not only just working, but managing people. Um, did that uh, pretty much straight through the end of high school. I learned a lot working for my parents in that business, in the restaurant business. The number one thing I learned is that I did never wanted to own a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's extremely, extremely physically hard work, a lot of hours. It's not that it's impossible, but it's very hard to scale. From high school, I went into the military, served 3 years active as well as reserve, did 3 years reserve, went to college, had uh, got my degree up in Plattsburgh, SUNY Plattsburgh in upstate New York, and eventually got a job in sales, which is not anywhere I'd ever see myself. But it was kind of just a transition point for me where I was kind of thinking about going to graduate school. I was thinking about doing this, doing that. I was kind of at that young 20s age, trying to figure out what my next steps were. And I got a job for a company selling technology services. Again, never worked in sales before, but had a really good mentor there who taught me ins and outs of how to sell stuff. Basically, just how to talk to people, what to say, what questions to ask. And really quickly, I became the top salesperson in the district that I worked in. It was like really fast. And I was like, wow, I really like this. Anybody who knows me, my friends would say I have the gift of gab, right? I could talk to a stranger pretty easily, sometimes a little too easily, as my fiance Kim would say. But from there, I actually transitioned to teaching and training other people how to sell or do what I was doing. So it was like an odd role for me. I was kind of new in the industry, but then all of a sudden I had a lot of success. People said, "What's this guy doing?" So they put me in a position where I was teaching and training. And from there, early 2000s, that company went out of business. So I was experiencing a lot of success, and then I kind of had to transition a little bit as well. Again, got a job in corporate retail, worked for a bigger retailer, learned store operations, again, how to manage people, give direction, follow up. Eventually, I worked my way into a corporate trainer position. They called it academy facilitator. I was teaching and training managers, supervisors, how to run their departments, run their stores, etc. Was there for about 10 years. Really loved what I was doing. I felt like it was a cool position because it took a lot of the skills, sales management, the management skills I learned working for my parents, teaching and training, just what I'm passionate about in general is talking to people and helping them improve and develop. But, after a while, the corporate grind got to me a little bit, just being on the road a lot, working a lot of hours. Again, you're not scalable at all. It's how many hours you can work is your value, right? The more you can get done is your value. And from there, I decided to take an entrepreneurial leap. I got into real estate and I worked for a bigger brand real estate company, actually right here in the Myrtle Beach area. I was there for several years, sold real estate for a couple of years. and did really well. And again, I was in a position where they kind of knew my background, what brought me into real estate, and they had a role available to learn a little bit about running a real estate company operationally, and also teach and train new agents and experienced agents on market trends, how to sell real estate, this technology that was coming out, just make sure realtors had all the tools they need to be successful. And I did that for several years. Had a great run at that company, was treated really well, enjoyed what I was doing. But I started feeling a little bit stagnant. I feel like I kind of outgrew the position a little bit. I'm the kind of person, if you learn a little bit about me listening to this, and I know Preston and I talk about this a lot, I'm the kind of person, I'm different because I like to be uncomfortable. I like to do things that make me uncomfortable. I run endurance races, just as an example, like marathons, half marathons, things like that, because I enjoy the discomfort. So for me, I'd kind of reached a plateau in the position I was at. Fast forward a little bit, and I talked about my military service from my young 20s. Well, I also got the inkling that I wanted to give back to the military again as well. So I enlisted in the Army Reserves in the fall, found out I had to go to basic training in the winter. So for me, it was like the perfect pivot to, okay, I have to take these next 11 or 12 weeks out of my work career anyway. It seems like a perfect time to kind of pivot and do something different. And, in making that decision, I met Preston again, really for the second time. We had met up years ago, but again for the second time. And he kind of told me about this role in this new company called Palms Realty that he was just really in the process of starting up at that point. And it seemed like it was a good fit for me. It just made sense at that point of me wanting that next challenge, also to get a little bit uncomfortable and to be part of something that is going to grow and challenge me a little more than where I was at. So I went to basic training to start off the year. Literally, I think January 3rd was my first day of basic. Came back in March and started here at Palms. So I serve in the Army Reserves. I do that 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and whenever else I'm needed. And then I'm here full time doing this job as an integrator. And I didn't mention my family. So I have an amazing fiance named Kim.
When did that happen?
Recently engaged. We just got engaged last week. We have 3. For me, it's going to be future step kids, awesome kids. And I couldn't ask for a better support system and family dynamic than I have. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And that's me in a nutshell, Preston.
Yeah, and that's Travis and I are a lot alike. I think we talk about me, and when I left CRG, I just became complacent, and I need challenge, and strive for challenge, and I want to be challenged, and that was, most people are like, why'd you leave, or what happened? But for me, it was just, I needed to do something different. And also I needed to, now I'm in a position, and with what I'm doing, with everything I'm doing, it's I'm having more fun now than I think I've ever had in business. So it's for me, it's just, whenever I become complacent or don't feel challenged, I need to do something different.
You know what that makes me think of, Preston? I've said this to you before too, is I've learned at 40 years old, I need accountability.
Yeah.
I need it in my personal life. That's why, like, Kim is a perfect partner for me. She holds me to accountable to a lot of things, whether it be my personal goals or whatever that might be. And again, the environment I was in, it was a good environment. I won't knock it, but to me, I didn't feel accountable anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like I wasn't challenged. Things were easy. Here, we hold each other accountable. And I what I love about you, even as a leader, is you're okay with being held accountable.
100%.
We have a group chat. I'll give you an example. We have a group chat of the leadership team every morning. We're texting each other to make sure we're up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and getting our daily fitness in, right? And pushing each other and setting goals. I think this morning you committed to running a half marathon, I think.
Yeah, I think I did.
So just for an example.
And I've never been a runner. Grew up surfing and playing basketball, but I've never been, I can't tell you the time I've ever run more than 5 miles. So it's, But after I committed to that, I was like, okay, my son's 12, or he'll be 12 this month or June, um, and he committed to do it with me in the fall. So, I want my son to see, to commit to things like that and see what's possible, and no better way for me to stay committed than if somebody in my house is actually going to do it as well, who's my son. So I'm excited to walk the half marathon. It'll be a lot of fun.
Good stuff. Well, in that conversation, I'm going to transition to something I love. I heard you say this to somebody else recently, and it just kind of stuck with me. Talk about goal versus committed. I know our coach John Cheplack, he talks about that a lot. Don't just have a goal, be committed. Talk about that a little bit. You used the word commitment just now. Talk about that a little. Why is that important?
Yeah, I mean, you think about, it's kind of cliche. Hey, what are your goals for the year? And then the other, oh, that you're not going to, nobody's going to stick to those past February 1st.
Right.
When you think of like the gym and things like that. So, for me, the commitments are the steps that you need to take to hit those goals. I mean, you look at it like if you're in a boat and you have a destination on the river, without the commitments, you're basically in a boat without any row. You can't row. So you have no direction, the destination, how you're going to get there if you don't know how to navigate or have the tools to get there. So, commitments are the daily things that you have to do to ensure those goals are met. And that's what we talk about here as well. Like I want to hear about your goals, but what are your commitments? And the commitments are basically the steps that are going to get you there. And John talks about it a lot. And you hear him say this a lot is tiny hinges swing big doors. So those little things in your daily life, instead of throwing out this big number, sales number, whatever it may be, weight loss number. I mean, stick to those commitments that are going to get you there. And that's what's great about EOS. We have these weekly accountable things that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we know if we do those things, because historically, if you look at it and we complete those items, that the goals are going to be met, because they always will. I mean, it's not rocket science, hard work works, right? So
Right.
it's, if you put in the daily task and the daily commitments, and those goals will come.
I think what's important about that, I've heard somebody say recently that we are a society that seeks comfort, right? And one way to really make yourself successful is you have to be okay with being uncomfortable. And sometimes those commitments that we make, like you committing to a half marathon, there's probably even self doubt, like, can I do that?
Oh, 100%.
Right. But that's really uncomfortable. But think
Yeah.
about even just getting ready for that event, how much you're going to benefit from that.
Oh yeah. Right after I said that, I was like, oh crap, did I really type that out? And then, me being me, a couple minutes later, I was Googling how to get ready for a half marathon. So there you have it.
I love that. One example I need to touch on with you, because I loved it. It actually made an impact on me when I heard you say it. Was you talked about marriage. Do you have a goal to be a good husband, or are you committed to be a good husband? Talk about that a little bit, because I thought that was a cool analogy.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. I mean, anything that you want to do and want to do well, like when you get married, you're committed, right? You say, you hear the word committed, you're committed to that person, and you don't say, I have a goal to be a good husband. If it's a commitment, then you're going to do it. I'm committed to be a good father, and that's one of our core values at Palms. And not only is it a core value at Palms, but for me personally, I think everybody in leadership and the whole team, it's important in their lives as well. I'm committed to being a good leader. I'm committed to being a good father. I'm committed to being a good, husband. I'm committed to being, just good health wise and everything else. I mean, those are commitments that will never change. And, that's important to me personally. I think it's important to all of the leaders at Palms Realty. And I think it's important to a lot of our team as well. And, people will, in sales or realtors or whoever, they'll, whatever the leadership is doing, they'll gravitate toward that. I mean, they'll want to do those same things as well.
Yeah, and core values are important if you're an entrepreneur, even if you're like a solo realtor. I think it's important to establish what are the core values in my business, that because you are an entrepreneur as a single realtor, you are. What are your core values? Because really, what it is your compass that helps you make decisions in your business, or when you do turn to hire somebody. you look at each core value and say, hey, does this person match my core values?
Yeah, and it's the commitment, and same thing with core values. What is your mission statement? What is your personal mission statement? What why are you doing the things you do? And for me, we talk about that. Like when I stopped chasing money, I started making more money.
Yeah.
It's for me, and it's kind of cliche, but I'm more. I really care more about making an impact on the people that work with us, their lives, our clients' lives, and everything else. And if you focus on making an impact, and you impact people's lives, then money will come.
Right.
And and having the freedom too. To me, having the freedom, wealth is really having the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
I couldn't agree with that more. I personally define success slash wealth, right, in my own career. And for everybody, it might be different. But I think for me, it's being able to choose how I spend my time and who I spend it with.
Yes.
It's not money. At the end of the day, it's not. You think about people you've heard the stories about people on their deathbed and stuff like that. They never regret having not enough money. That's never a regret of anybody, right? It's like who they spent their time with or how they spent their time. And to me, that's where I've aged and grown in life is that focus of being in the moment and enjoying how I spend my time and who I spend it with.
Yeah. And in the mornings I listen to Motiversity, which is motivational. It's on YouTube, and I'll click one and play it. And I can't remember who says it, but he says it all the time. He's like, you never see a U-Haul following a hearse.
Yeah.
Which is true. You can't take things in lives. You cannot take anything with you, right? Once you're gone, you're gone. So it's funny to think about that, but I hate that rings in my head. I think I've heard it like 5 times in the last week, so I need to switch to a new video. But I'll listen to those, and there's a lot of good, there's a lot of good conversations and good things in those videos.
One thing I've heard you say, we talked about being committed, and I know when we have John, we do what's called go to the board once a quarter with our agents. John Chaplack will come in. He'll talk about what are they trying to achieve, what are they committed to achieving, what are the actions they need to take in their business to make that happen. But I've heard you say this, and he says it in a way as well. Don't be as focused on the why, but what's versus the what. Explain that a little bit, because I thought that was an interesting mind shift for me when I started hearing that over the past few months. Why versus what?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a why. I mean, and a lot of times it's family or kids or whatever. But you need to, like, with the money you make or the things you do, what is that going to do for you? Like, what is that going to pay off student debt? Is that going to buy you a car? Is it going to buy you a house? Is it going to pay for the wedding? Tie it to something. Like, tie those commitments to, okay, if I do these commitments, I get these things done, then I'm going to make the income level I want to make. What is that going to do for you? Personally, professionally, what is that going to, and a lot of times it's, people say, hey, I want to have debt. I want to start a savings plan for my family. I want to do these things. And we hear that, and that's really, and go to the board. That's why you dig deep. You dig deep, and if somebody says, oh, I want to make more calls. Okay, you want to make more calls. How many more calls? Commit to a number. And then it's a lot easier to achieve that, because you just say, I want to make more. Well, what's more?
Right.
And then you could hold, as somebody that's helping them be accountable, you could hold them accountable, because you can't hold them accountable to, I want to make more calls. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But if you have a number, you can log into the CRM and see the number and see how many calls they made. So that's really as far as why, what, but doing those commitments will ensure to they get what they need, or what they're looking to do when those commitments are met.
Yeah. One thing I've heard Grant Cardone say this in the book, I believe it's the book 10X, the 10X rule. He said, he called it the passion link. So because you achieve this, you're able to do this, right? That to me is like the what, right? Because you did this in your business, you are now able to do this. And that's what's driving you. Because a lot of times doing this in your business, whatever it is, making the calls every day, is not sexy, right? It's not the fun stuff all the time, right? So it's a grind. And that's why you have to have that what. If you don't have that what, that goal, even going to the gym, if you don't have like a fitness goal, after a while, again, going to the gym is a grind. But if you're training for something specifically, right, then it becomes more durable over time, right?
And you hear that too. Like another one is these videos I listened to was one of them is talking about the guy that founded, I think one of the founders might be the founder of the Spartan race. And that's what he talks about. When you pick a date on the calendar, then it's real. You put a date on the calendar. If there's no date on the calendar, and he's like, through time has shown us, through historical data has shown us, without a date on the calendar, then you're just going to, like you said, you just go to the gym, and eventually you'll go to the gym, and there's no reason why you're going to the gym,
right?
Or you just want to get healthy, and that's it. Okay, well, tie something else to that, which will challenge you, right? Because when you start going to the gym often, it doesn't become challenging,
right.
And so that's why tying something else to it will encourage you to keep going.
Yeah, that's honestly the reason I started running races. Because I've always been into fitness, and I was just working out a lot. And after a while, it's like, what am I spending all this time on? Right.
Yeah.
Obviously my health and things like that. But like, to me, I didn't have necessarily a what. And I remember I ran like a 5K a couple years ago. It was like a big deal to me. It's like, all right, I'm going to run this It was like a 4th of July 5K. It was the first race I'd ever run in my life. And I ran, I was like, man, you get the endorphin rush kind of before, during, after, and I was addicted. And then from there, it's like the 5K wasn't enough. So now I wanted to challenge, then I grew to 10K and so on and so forth. But it's like funny you say that. So for me, I do that. I always have to have some sort of event on the calendar, which drives me. I know, almost like an athlete, I'm training for that in a weird way. I'm not a professional athlete by any means, but I treat it that way. And that because there's days you don't feel like going to the gym, right?
Yeah.
There's just days you don't. Even like I do it every single day, 6 to 7 days a week, but there's days I just don't feel like it.
Oh yeah. When 4 a.m. Most of the time I wake up before my alarm goes off, but sometimes 4 a.m. it goes off. I'm just like, oh God, I'm getting out of bed again.
Yeah.
But I feel like I just lay down. But you do it, and for me, I can't snooze my alarm now, and then I put it where I actually have to get out of bed to turn it off. So it's not just beside me where I could roll over and slap it. I actually got to get out of bed before my wife punches me in the face. So, doing little things like that, it might sound silly, but it gets me out of bed. And once I'm out of bed, I'm out of bed. I'm not getting back in. So that's, that helps me and pushes me to get up, in that time. We talk about the window, that morning. And for me, my morning is always the same. It's always 4 a.m. And, sometimes I'll get up and I'm making coffee, and it's like Groundhog's Day because I did this the day before and I do it every day, but it's fine. It's boring, but that boring morning makes the rest of my day successful, and continues to help me grow. And because I have a lot on my plate of what I do between Easy Home Search and Palms and other things I do, and there's no way I would be able to get all those things done if I didn't get up at 4, spend an hour of work out at 5. I get my kids up, get them ready, take them to school, and then come to the office after that. And that's what helps me do the things I do. And that's why I get up at 4 a.m.
That's your process.
Yes.
That's, if you go, to the first question we asked when we started this episode was, why the process and where'd you come up with the name? That's your daily process, is that. And what I love, one of the first things I heard, maybe one of the very first coaching sessions I was ever on with John, he said, I can't get the verbiage right, but he said the more boring he is, the more successful he is over time. There's a compound effect in consistency. And I've thought a lot about that in my own life. It's like, yeah, like I've gotten very regimented, same as you. I get up, not to one up, but I get up at 3:45.
I changed mine last week. I'm getting up at 3:45 now.
But my process in the morning is probably a little more drawn out. I enjoy that time to myself. I spend a good 30 minutes drinking that first cup of coffee. I'm not gonna lie. I like it. It's my quiet time to myself. And
the same thing I do. I mean, I spend, I get up and I start drinking coffee about 4:15, and I spend, hour in front of the computer, doing laying my day out, setting stuff up, seeing what I need to add, content outlines and things like that. Stay away from social media. So I do, but yeah, I sit there until 5 a.m. doing that, but also drinking coffee. I have my coffee sitting right there with my French press. I have a cup and a half of coffee.
Yeah. And going back to John, and I've started saying this to myself, and I've noticed it. The more boring my life is, the happier I am. And it sounds probably foreign. Somebody's probably hearing that and be like, well, that can't be fun. But if you think about it, that consistency in your life adds a lot of certainty.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's why, you hear it all the time in percentages. 85%, 85, 90% of realtors that get in the business fail within 3 years. And you think about, why do people get into real estate? They want a flexible schedule. They want more time.
Right.
They want all those things. And so they get those things, but then they're not committed to any schedule. So, flexible schedule, all those things to basically work less, and then don't stick to a committed schedule, and then they fail.
And, or I'll say the number one, even, in my previous job role, I spent a lot of times talking to realtors, right? In a coaching capacity or teaching and training, even high level experienced agents. And the number one thing they always complained or struggled with was how chaotic their schedule was. Right. And I would always kind of talk to them about, that you need to add consistency to your morning. What's your power morning look like? You need to control when you schedule appointments. That needs to be in the afternoon, right? A whole nother episode, but you're doing it, posting on social media.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't equal happiness, right? It's the certainty you add to your life, or the time you spend with your family, is what gets into that. So in future episodes, we're going to talk a lot about the process. We're going to talk a lot about EOS, which we introduced a little bit. We got some guests coming up that are going to help us introduce a little bit more about the entrepreneurial's operating system and how that equates into real estate. Preston, what else do you want to say about the process as we close this episode out?
Yeah, I mean, we're just excited. We have referral partners with Easy Home Search that we're going to interview in different markets. So we're going to talk about, Charlotte market. We actually, the first one coming up, Joel is in Charlotte. So we're going to bring him on. He didn't jump right into real estate. He was a police officer before he came a real. I'm not sure exactly what that time gap is there, but he was a police officer. Now he sells real estate. And, he's going to share with us about, things happening in the Charlotte market, what's going on in real estate in that marketplace. And we're going to kind of hop around the state. And then when we add Georgia, some MLSs in Georgia on Easy Home Search, we'll go into those markets as well. And really just to educate, like for Easy Home Search, the main things are we allow people to search without hassle, educate throughout the process, and then only connect when they ask to be connected. So that's part of this, the process, as well as to educate people on the markets and different things in real estate.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to our first episode of The Process. However you're listening or watching this, click like and subscribe. Right? I think that's what you're supposed to say at the end of a podcast.
I think so.
And guys, we'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great week.